On today's video, we're going to create a simple Python GUI using a module called tkinter. Let me show it to you. It's got menu items to exit. It's also got a help menu, which you can use to pop up information about the GUI. This area right here with our logo H3 technology is an image, and then it'll change based on a choice that we make in a drop-down menu. Here are two choices in a drop-down menu. For this, we'll choose General Electric. We also have a label, and we have a little widget here called a date entry from a module called tkcalendar, and you can use it to change the date. So we'll choose a different month here and a year, 15. This is just a typical entry widget that you can use to enter information. We're using it to enter a date and time here. And we also have a button that will change the image in here based on the drop-down menu value. So we'll go ahead and hit this. You can see it changed the graph. Alright, are you interested in coding this up? If so, let's get started. Alright, I created a project in Pycharm for us to use. In this images folder here, you see we have two images, one for General Electric and one for Coke. We came out with a tutorial to create graphs and charts using Python, and we'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in watching that tutorial and you want to make charts of your own. So that's in the images folder. So in the source folder, let's go ahead and create a new Python file. We'll just call this Python GUI. We'll have to import some modules. As mentioned before, to create this GUI, we're using something called tkinter. And that should come with your Python distribution. We'll also need system because we're going to deal with loading some files. There's a couple of other modules we need here. Let me go ahead and type these up real quick. Tkinter, we're going to import photo image, which will help us load the graphics or the images. Menu for menu items. TTK for some labels. An entry box and a standard label. And then we have a module called tkcalendar, which we're going to use to create that date entry. We're going to use the calendar and the date entry. We're going to use the date entry for sure, but the calendar I'll leave there, since if you're interested in exploring more of this module, look in the calendar as well. So date entry, and you can see here it comes up red because we need to import this module. So to do that, go to File Settings. And we have the project interpreter. And we want to add tk calendar. Let's go ahead and install that package. Okay, it'll think for a few seconds and then the red squiggly lines will go away. Let's go ahead and create our class. Python GUI. That seems like a good name. And then have an initialize here. So first we have to initialize the GUI. To do that, we'll call tk. There's a method called tk. So that's all you need to do for that. We'll set a title, and we'll give this the name stock prognosticator. use single quotes for this. We also want to configure it a bit. We'll just set the background color to white. The name of that option is background. And it knows about the color white. And we want to say that it's resizable. Height and width. We'll just set this to true. If you don't want to resize yours, just set these to false. And we have a default image in the prognosticator. When this started up originally, you saw that it showed H3 and this default image, and the stock images fit in this portion of it right here. So when it starts up, we want to have a default image, so that's what we'll call it. We're going to use the module photo image for this, and we're going to give it a file. And this one's called H3. Probably have to go out to the file system to grab this one. And in the name of the file, I put what we scaled it to. Okay. File equals. And then self. We want to create the menu. And then show it. Show layout. Okay, let's create another method called. Well, let's go down and we create the menu and the run items first. So we'll have one called Run GUI. This will just start the main loop. And you'll need this when you write the GUI, so it'll just start looping back and forth, just listening for events. Of course, to start this whole thing, we'll need a little. To run it as a script, we'll need to do this. This main. We want to create an instance of this GUI class. And then run it. Okay, so there we go. Now we get this up and running. Let's go ahead and implement some of these methods that we declared. So let's go ahead and create the menu. Didn't hand myself there. We have a menu bar. It to our GUI, which is self.gui, which we declared above. And we also have a file menu. Let me go back to the GUI here. So we have a file menu for an exit, and then we have a help menu. There we go. So file menu, create a menu. Menu bar. And tear off equals false. In other words, we don't want the user to be able to tear it off from the bar. So we'll say tear off equals false. Okay. And we want to the file menu. Let's enter or add the command to exit. So we'll say file menu, add command. Let's say exit. tell it to quit GUI, and this is a method that we'll write in just a little bit. We also have a menu bar that will create an exit menu. So let's go ahead and add to the menu bar a cascade. The menu is the file menu itself. File menu, and in there we're going to give it a label called file. Alright, so we got the menu bar, we created something called exit, and it's going to be underneath a title called file. Now let's create one for help. Add a menu option for help. And in here we'll say help underscore menu equals menu. Just follow the same pattern as above. Menu bar. Tar off equals false. And help menu, oops. Dot add command, and for this one we'll just give it a label called help. Give it a command equals self dot, and we'll write a method called show help. Alright, and let's add a cascade to that, so we can call it, of course we'll just call this as well help, and this is for the help menu. Okay, and now that that's done, we need to add this to the GUI. GUI config menu equals menu bar. Menu equals menu bar. Okay, looks good. Now let's create a method to show help. We'll call this, what do we call this? Show help? Yeah. And in here we have, what we'll do is we'll pop out the help menu, so when they go and say help, it'll pop out another menu here so they can move this around, make it bigger or whatnot. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that we have to get something from TK called top level, tk.top level from the GUI itself. We'll give it a title. Call it help menu. Now to set the geometry on this, to set the size, it's you have to use a specific syntax. It's a little, makes your eyes bleed a little bit. Let me go ahead and type it in. So basically you're going to give it this string which we found online. %dx, %d, % plus d percentage plus d. Okay, I hope they got that right. We'll check it when we run it. If it's not, we'll make a correction. And then from there, use %, and then you can set your dimensions here. So for what we have in our help menu, we determined that these dimensions were the best. And let's give this a label. Basically, this is what we're going to put in the help menu. We're going to put it in top, and then text equals this is the help menu. And pack it in there. And just pad it a little bit with X and Y. Alright, that is the method to show help. Now let's create a method to quit the GUI. Quit GUI. Let's see, so self GUI, the GUI itself has a quit method, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll destroy it. And then we'll exit the program using sys. So that is the quit GUI. And now let's go ahead and create the show layout method that we define right here. This will put everything in its proper place. Show layout. So let's go ahead and set up these images here. Image label. Now to grab the image and put it on the GUI, you need to set up the label and then put the image in it. That's what we'll do here. tk.label. We're using the GUI, and then we'll reference the image that we created up here. Image equals default image, and we'll give it a border, make it look nice. And for that, the type of the border, use an option called relief, and we'll use one called groove. Alright, let's do a little more work on this. We're going to use the grid layout here. So in the grid layout, you specify rows and columns of where to put things. So this one, right here, this image, basically it starts from the upper left-hand corner. We're going to say column 0, row 0. So this is where we're going to put it in the grid. So to specify that in the grid, you just say column. I'm going to say 0, and then row equals 1. Give it a little pad Y, and sticky you can specify north, south, east, and west to sticky. So if it has an option of whether to float something or not, and you specify sticky, it'll move it in that direction. In our case, we want it to go west, which is left. So we'll say sticky equals W there. Right. Actually, I got ahead of myself here. Sorry about that. Let's back up just a sec. This is just simply row 0, column 0, and the column span equals 7. Okay, let me go back and explain this. Sorry about that. So basically on our GUI, we're going to set it to column 0, row 0 right here. Now you notice that on the bottom here we have several different widgets that we're going to pack in together here on the grid. And when we specify this image, we want to say that this column here spans 7. In other words, 7 objects. That's how we got this to fit all nicely together. Because if you don't put the column span, then all these items may just be smashed together, because this image would try to put itself on one column, which wouldn't be good. So that's the reason for the column span. Alright, now let's work on the drop-down menu. For the company. So we'll create an array here to to put in the drop-down menu. So one is called Coca-Cola. The other one is called General Electric. Create a string called combo string. And you need to do this to get the combo box to work. Basically, we're going to put this in a variable that the drop-down menu understands. So from there, we'll create a combo object. Combo equals ttk.combo box. This is capital combo box. Put it in our GUI. Give it a width of 15. 15 should be good. Text variable. Equals the combo string that we just created there. That's what it requires. Combo grid. Let's put it in the grid. And if you remember, we're just going to put this on the left-hand side. Column equals 0. Row equals 1. Pad it a little bit so these things don't run together. And then here, the sticky equals west. All right, and now let's insert the values into the drop-down menu. So we'll say self combo, and to do that, you put it in an array called values, or list, and say equals data, which we defined up here. All right. Now there is an option to set a default value. I just gave the first one. I'm having trouble getting this to work correctly. It doesn't always show the default value. I don't know if that's just a bug in Linux or not, but we'll go ahead and put it there anyways. So let's now work on the dates. So let's create a label for the start date. So if you see in our GUI here, we've got the drop-down menu that we just worked on. Then we have a label for start date. Then we're going to have a date entry widget here, an entry field to enter a date, and then a button to launch the graph. So let's go ahead and work on this date first. They're pretty simple to create. We'll call it start label. We'll just create a label, put it in the GUI. Text equals start date. Pretty simple. Now let's just put it on the grid. Column equals 2. Column equals 1, sorry. And row equals 1. Okay. Make this pretty. And sticky. We'll make this sticky as well. To the west. We want to push everything to the left side. Okay. Now let's create a date entry widget. And we're getting this from the tkcalendar module here. Still shows red. I wonder if thought we imported that. Let's just double check. Good. All right, we'll come back to that if it doesn't like us. All right, create a date entry widget. So let's go ahead. We'll call this Let's call it a calendar, or call it cal, that's fine. And then here's a constructor for a date entry, there we go. Self.gui. We'll give it a width equals 12. Background, we like dark blue. Foreground will be white. These are just things to make it look better. Border width equals 2. And the year, we'll give it 2020. On our other one, we gave it the year 2010, but we'll make sure we got the current year on this one. Alright, that's all we need to do to create it. Now let's put it on the grid. And for this one, it's going to be column equals 2, row equals 1, sticky equals west. Alright, now let's create So this is going to be a standard tkinter entry. As you can see here, nothing fancy about it. It's just a field where you can enter information. This isn't necessarily a date. We just put a default value in here to show the user that this is what we're expecting. Let's go ahead and create that. We'll call this self.dateEntry 2. This is really the end date, but we'll just call it DateEntry 2 so we can differentiate between the two when we output this to the terminal. Let's see, DateEntry 2 equals entry object. You just tell it, give it the GUI, self.gui, and give it a width. That width 17 should be big enough for everything that we need. And let's put it in the grid. Column equals 3, row equals 1, sticky equals W. And let's go ahead, and if you see here, we just gave it a default value. So what we'll do there is we'll just insert some data here to give the operator, or the user, excuse me, information of what the data should look like. So let's just say 07 2020, and then so fields there to enter the time. Alright, now let's make a button. So in here we have a button, so when you click the button, it'll go in, it'll change this image in here. So let's go ahead and create the button. So let's create the button. We'll call it chart button. ttk.button. Self.gui. Give it a text. We'll call this one graph. And equals. We'll call this method get input, which we'll create in just a sec here. Now let's put this button on the grid. You can probably guess what this will be. Column equals 4, row equals 1, sticky equals W. Alright, so now we have one more method to define, and that's get input, and this is going to get all the input from our GUI when we click the chart button. Get input. First, let's get the company. Say company equals self combo.get. That's all you need to do to get the value from the combo box or the drop-down menu. And we're going to create a little if-else condition here. So based on the choice that they selected for the combo box, we're going to display a particular image here. So let's go ahead and create that now. We'll say if company equals Coca-Cola, then we're going to set the image self.coke image equals, and then we're going to reference the images in this images folder that we talked about earlier. We're going to use the photo image module for that, and then we'll say file equals, and this is going to be up1 images ko.png. There we go. Okay, good. And then let's go ahead and display it. So we have an image label that is part of the default image. This one right here. So we're going to reference this in the layout, and we're just going to reconfigure it to change the image that it uses. That's how we're going to do this. So get the image label here, and then to change it, we use the config command, and we say, I also want to change the relief on here. Since we're displaying a different type of graph, we call this sunken for this relief. And we'll say image equals self.coke.image. Whoops. That's it. All right. And let's do one for General Electric. Let's copy this. Company equals General Electric. We'll call this GE image, and this is going to be ge.png, and we'll call it GE image. Okay, I think that's good there. Hopefully we spelled everything correctly. Now let's get the start date, or get the date. The date from the DateEntry widget. Call it in start date. Yeah, start date. Start. I can learn how to type here. Start date equals self.calendar get underscore date. And end is that easy. So you remember self.cal was this DateEntry widget. And to get the date, that's all you do, is you just get that start date. And let's see, let's get the date from the entry widget, which is the standard tkinter widget. Okay, let's go ahead and get that. So we'll call this date equals self.data_entry2.get. That easy. Okay. Now the end date that we have here is just coming in as text, yeah. And what we're going to do is we're going to just create it into a datetime object to display that. just to show you how that's done. So we'll say date object equals date time strp. This is a function that will parse an object from a string and then put it into a date time object. So we're worried about the end date here, and then we have a pattern that we're going to use to translate it from, and that pattern is, let's see, we have the month and the day, and this documentation is online, and this is a capital Y, and then after that we have hours, minutes, and seconds. This is capital H, colon, capital M, and then capital S. And that should translate it correctly. And then what we'll do, so we'll see the values that it produces. We'll print this out, all of the data that we gathered from the GUI. So we say company is space company, and then start date, and then we're going to format this. So the start date came from our date entry widget, so let's format this. So we're going to use the str f time, and then we'll use the same format that we used here, month, day, year. I think this is supposed to be a capital Y. Okay. Put a period there. And then let's also put the end date. End date is, this is a date object. We'll also format this as well. But we have to keep in mind that we're formatting it. We also have hours, minutes, and seconds. So we'll go ahead and take this format from up here. Alright, I think that's it. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this to run. So what I'll do first is I'll close out this other GUI using the file exit menu. And let's see if we can run this. Alright, let's fix this up. Alright, let's make some just quick change here. Would help if I learn how to spell. Okay, that should fix that. And we need to add this particular file into images. Let me go ahead and add this in. That bug. Alright, now that we got everything up and running and all the bugs fixed, let's go ahead and check things out. Let's first try the help menu. Go up here to help. And you can see how it pops out here. This looks pretty good. Alright, and then we can go ahead and choose a value from the drop-down menu. And let's go ahead and change the date here too. This will go to, let's say, let's go to June 17th, 2021. And then here, let's go to August 11th, 2022 at 1309 seconds. Go ahead and hit the graph. Okay, I changed the graph successfully. And now let's look at the dates, make sure they're okay. This is June 17th, 2021, and the end date is August 11th, 2022 at 1300. Excellent. And to exit if you want to exit the GUI, you can just say File, Exit. Alright, well that wraps it up for this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below, and thanks for watching.